So what is this essential self that I'm speaking about? Why do I call it essential self? There is this idea in spirituality that we don't know ourselves, our true self, sometimes it's called. The I, me, is associated mostly with the so-called ego. So sometimes we get on the path of spirituality, and after a while of teachings and maybe even some experiences that seem to be something else than this I, we start a conflict with this I, with myself in our mind. The question is, are there two selves? Is our experience that we have two selves? One true self and one false self. Or maybe even many more. I'm assuming we're all here, like basically everyone else in this beautiful dream. We all want to be happy. We all want to experience love, peace. Even if we have tried the whole world to make this happiness last, and it doesn't work out, we hear about enlightenment, liberation, and then, okay, that is going to be what's going to bring me that lasting peace, that lasting happiness. So we may seek enlightenment. We would not seek enlightenment or liberation if it would promise us miserable life. It's not natural to us to be miserable. We are happy people in nature. The problem is, in our experience, mostly happiness seems to be something, peace, love, seems to be something that comes and goes. And when I speak about our essential self, it contains the promise of the happiness and the peace and the love that we all seek in ourselves, as ourselves. If we want to find lasting happiness, we can not find it in things that come and go. We need to find that in our experience that is always there. That which is essential to us. So we can start investigate our experience and see, what is this human experience containing? What is my experience of myself? What is it that I call I? That we all call I. Who or what am I? How can we know anything if we are not clear about that I? That is somehow the center of all our experience, all our life. Everything is somehow connected to this I. It was always there. I don't think any one of you has a memory of a moment, a conscious moment without that I, that essential self, being aware of the experience that we're making. So as a fundamental layer of understanding ourselves, we need to understand or remember who or what this I is. Not that we have really forgotten, but we're playing the game very convincingly with us that we did. Consciousness plays the game of forgetting with itself, hide and seek with itself. It's like I remember when I was a little kid and we came to Germany when I was 5, and then I didn't speak the language and I hated it all in school, and so I was the only child, so I played chess with myself. And to play chess with myself, I had to forget that I'm playing with myself. I had to pretend to myself that I forgot what move I made to have fun playing the game. This life is just that, this game of playing forgetting, while we actually never forgot. And it's a great myth in spirituality that we did forget, because it appears like that. And that we have to make tremendous efforts and meditate minimum 15 hours a day and stand on the head for another hour. And many, many beautiful practices that are helpful to prepare the mind, to settle the mind for these subtle teachings. But our self, our essential self is already here. It's just waiting for us to attend back to itself. Love waiting for love to come back to itself. So we can start our self-investigation, self-inquiry, Atma Vichara. This who am I? What am I? In a simple way. Okay, what's here? It's not really rocket science, the human experience. So here are thoughts. There are thoughts in my experience. Maybe thoughts about myself, very convincingly speaking about myself, like those thoughts were me. But do those thoughts, you can produce a random thought in your mind. Think about anything now. The thought comes up in the mind and it dissolves back. So thoughts, obviously, cannot be myself, cannot be my essential self, cannot be that which is continuous, which is lasting in my experience. They come and go. What else do we have in our experience? Sense perceptions, sounds, this voice. These sense perceptions that give me a sense of me, maybe. Like the thoughts, they come. They appear in my experience, in my awareness, and they go. And maybe another sense perception comes, maybe I feel the air on my skin, or another sound, or some taste in my mouth. However, it cannot be essential to me. It comes and goes in my experience. There might be images also in my mind that pop up and they go. And then there's the more subtle experience of feelings. Maybe even a feeling of me, an I feeling somewhere in my heart, which appears in my experience as a sensation. And many other sensations that we may call my body. It seems these sensations are always there, maybe. They may appear as continuous, but latest when we go to bed at night and we go to sleep, we don't freak out to go to sleep losing this sensation of my body. We're very happy to go to sleep and get a rest of these sensations and these thoughts and everything else. To find some good rest in, we'll see in what. But clearly the sensations go in the same way. When I ask you now to bring your awareness to your feet, and just stay with your awareness with your feet, you may discover slowly sensations, tingling sensations, vibrations in the feet. These sensations were not there a minute ago, now they apparently are. They come and go. It sounds a bit like a silly experiment with what we're doing, but if we look closer, this is what these sensations, these feelings, these sense perceptions, these thoughts, is what we usually confuse with ourselves. Like we would be something that is coming and going in our experience. These mentations. But we can see hopefully now clearly that they cannot be myself, my essential self, because they're not permanent. They're not continuous. Which means very practically that they cannot give me fulfill the promise of happiness, peace, love, joy in my life. Not lasting peace, joy, happiness. We may have beautiful thoughts, we may have beautiful feelings, we may have beautiful sense perceptions, but then the other side of life comes. We cannot have continuously a positive experience in thought, feeling, perception. Life has both sides, like the big painting that I spoke about, the big picture. Without the dark parts in the painting, we don't get the beauty of the whole picture. So all these thoughts, perceptions, feelings, emotions, sensations, they are not essential to me. They are fleeting experiences in my awareness. In I. I am aware of my thoughts. I am aware of my sense perceptions. I am aware of my feelings, of my sensations, of my body. I am that which is continuous in my experience. When I look in the mirror today, or we look into each other, into our eyes, the I that we see, is it different than the I that was looking in the mirror 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Or is it the same I, the same self? That's been always there as ourself, aware of our experience. So if we want to answer this question, who or what we are, we will not find that answer in thought, in feeling, in sensation, or in sense perception. We have to look what is prior, which is that which is aware of all of those. That is the fundamental layer of our experience of life and of these teachings. Like Jesus said, on this rock I build my church. We're building our life out of innocent confusion in this game, no blame. On sand, we're building our happiness, our peace, our love on the sand of fleeting thoughts, sensations, perceptions that are coming and going in our life, and are trying to make happiness, joy, peace last in those. But we all know when something comes across in our life that shakes up that construction, this construction of a separate self, of a me made of thoughts, feelings, sense perceptions, is very fragile. One tough word by our partner, our parents, can crash the whole house of happiness that we have created. if we want to live a happy and fulfilled life, we have to look for it in that which is permanent in our experience, which is lasting. And not in that which is coming and going. That which is aware of that which is coming and going. Some of you know, sometimes I use the simple questions I learned from Rupert Spira and Francis. It's not rocket science. Am I aware? Oh, yes. Do I exist? Of course. Where do we go to answer these simple questions of our very existence, of our essential self? Do we need thought, feelings, perceptions, sensations to confirm to ourselves that we exist, that we are? Am I aware? Or is it just a direct knowing of ourselves that needs no validation by our mind? And where are we going when we answer this question silently? Yes. That is that which is aware of all of our experience. And that is what we all call I. I am aware. There is nothing wrong with I. I is the first name of God. It's said somewhere. I am that I am. The I is our essential self. It just has gained a terrible reputation throughout our life by confusion, by forgetting that we're playing this game. So we added to this I all these ideas about ourselves. I am this, I am that, I like this, I don't like that, I want that, I fear that. That all gets shuffled up on that original essential self, and over time, by conditioning of our parents, our society, it becomes apparently our I. And because we mostly, when we seek happiness and haven't found it to last, pretty much every one of us at that point is not a big fan of our I, of ourself. We want a new one, don't we? Like, give me a new self. This one is kind of not cool. It's like miserable or depressed or so I find enlightenment, liberation, and then I get out of this miserable self. That's how it is told often, or how we imagine freedom. But the freedom that we seek is at the heart of our experience, at the heart of all these thoughts, feelings, sense perceptions, at the heart of this separate, apparent, separate self, shines in its full splendor always our true I, our true essential self. It's always there, prior, so to speak, for a start. Later we close full circle and see that it's all one. But for a start, we need to bring clarity into the game again and go prior to all of our experience to see that which is aware of our experience. Because it's a big mishmash, this life. There's all this awareness mishmashed with all these thoughts, feelings, sense perceptions, that, and it's very difficult to extract that essential self in experience. So we do this self-inquiry, this self-investigation, and become first clearly again aware of that which is aware, which is I, which is myself. And in that way, we throw out, we unlearn everything that we have learned about ourselves, about the world, about God, about spirituality, that are just ideas about ourselves, about the world. Unlearning, by unlearning I mean we release this conditioning, this conditioned ideas about ourselves that do not essentially belong to the I, but are just a construction. A construction of a separate self that is made of thoughts, feelings, sense perceptions, sensations. When we go full circle, the thoughts, feelings, sense perceptions, and sensations may reveal themselves to be non-different, non-separate, and essentially made of the same substance than this pure I, this essential self. But for now, they often appear to us that this self, made of wrong ideas, is made of something else. Negative thoughts, negative feelings, a body that is not in harmony. Is hard to accept to be our happy self. So we start to bring this clarity to this, what is essential to us, and to see that this, what is essential to us, is nothing than our self, our that which we call I. And from there, we can go back to attending our feelings, our sensations, the world, and we can from that perspective, and we'll do that now, look into all aspects of our life. So all questions are also welcomed here from all aspects of our life, relationships, work, not only abstract questions about consciousness. Very practical questions are also welcomed, and we bring them into relation to this deeper understanding of ourselves. But I just wish today to show clearly the happiness, the love, the peace that we're all seeking is ourself, is that which never comes and goes. Because that which we can lose will not bring lasting happiness to us. And that which we can add on and make more cannot be complete. And when it's not complete, it will always experience lack. And this is exactly the expression of our separate self, lack. Never enough, never good enough, never enlightened enough, never virtuous enough, never learned enough. It's never enough. I am not good enough. It's the basic expression of the apparent separate self, or sometimes called ego, which can never be satisfied on the long run, which can never be filled, because it's just a construction of our minds that has to be kept going by continuous thinking, acting, feeling, reacting, meeting. It's a construction that has to be kept moving to create the apparent continuity in our experience. And that's why it's so difficult for most of us to stop thinking, because when the thinking subsides, this apparent separate self, that illusion of an entity, of a person, of a separate person, would dissolve without this activity of the mind. And as we confuse willingly in this beautiful game ourselves with this construction of thinking, feeling, perceiving, relating, as we confuse our I with this activity, we need to keep thinking. When we can see clearly that our true I is that which is prior to all of those, we don't need to look for ourselves anymore in this activity of the mind, and it will naturally, in this understanding, find quiet, calm down, stop seeking itself in activity of the mind or the body. And then the mind and the body, paradoxically, is free to experience and to enjoy fully the whole aspect of life, the full expression, the thoughts, the feelings, poetry, music, dance, everything then from the perspective of the true I is such a joy, because there is no separate person there that needs to hold on, to cling to some aspects of our experience and push others away. There's no resistance, there's openness to life as it is. So to build our life on that rock and not on sand, we may wish to establish ourselves in ourselves, to remind ourselves, to stop playing the game of forgetting with ourselves, stop playing pretending we are this activity of the mind, and reminding ourselves, oh, I am that which is aware of all that. I am loving awareness, as Ram Dass said. I am loving awareness. But not as a mantra for the mind, but do I exist? Oh, am I aware? Yes. It's not a mystery, it's not rocket science to us. We know ourselves as this awareness. We just have practiced all our life to confuse ourselves with the objects that appear in our awareness. So for a while it might be needed, this self-inquiry, this Atma Vichara, to remind myself here and then when I tend to lose myself in thoughts, feelings, and life and activity. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Let me just put a big toe into myself. Let me ground myself back in myself. And from there we go keep playing this beautiful life. But without the toe, so to speak, in the waters of our being, in the ocean, we may freak out as the wave by the next situation. But when we have that toe knowingly as awareness in the ocean, the wave may crash and we're still happy, free. And in that way, I would like to invite everyone who has a feeling that this confusion is still happening in life. This confusion of me as this construction of a separate self, losing itself in its activity, to come back to that silence, to that stillness, to that awareness prior to that activity once in a while. And to rest there for a minute or so. Pause. And with time, from a minute, may become 10 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe 2, like in these meetings. And eventually we figure out that in the silence, in the stillness, is actually all the joy, all the peace, all the happiness that we're seeking, that does not may reveal itself at first place by that old habit of confusing myself with the activity of the mind. But with time, it will reveal itself more and more, like even now. Am I aware? There is a joy, like a bubble of champagne. In France, they say la joie de vivre. It's always there. It's just hiding behind this confusion of me confusing myself to be a body-mind construction apart from that awareness from everything else, like a fragment of life, always seeking, always looking for some fulfillment in something that can never complete me. So from this minute to 10 minutes to 2 hours, more and more we reverse the habit to confuse ourselves as this separate person, and more we land and establish ourselves back in ourselves until we discover that it's so beautiful that we just move in. We move back in and we just stay there, so to speak, and live our life from the perspective of ourself and not from the perspective of a illusory construction of our mind. And from that perspective of our essential self, from awareness, life loses its power to make us miserable, to suffer. Like a good avatar in a good game, we plunge in and we enjoy the game, but we don't fear anymore to lose anything. And we don't fear to not have enough. And we don't fear anything that comes into our awareness. We don't need to protect ourselves and we don't need to close our hearts. And without this defending, without that reacting mechanism of this apparent separate self, there is no more resistance to life. This big yes that we are starts to manifest in our life, in all of our life, our relationships, our work, our art, whatever we do, we can do freely without needing to protect and defend an illusory separate self that is just a construction of thought. And when there is no more resistance to life and to ourselves, suffering ends. Happiness, peace, love lasts. first in the background, so to speak, prior to the activity of the body and the mind and the world. In the background of our experience, there is this essential self, this essential peace, love, happiness. And then from that perspective, that love, peace, and happiness, joy is free to shine on all of our human experience, on all of our experiences. Permeate, infuse this experience like a perfume, raining down into all of our body, mind, world experience until all is so flooded with this peace, love, happiness of ourselves that background and that foreground of our experience become one again. We close full circle. And we live a simple, happy, joyful, loving human life. That simplicity, that peace, that love of our essential self, with this understanding, will show in our life, in our body, in our mind. Our thoughts will change, our feelings will change. Harmony comes into our work, into our relationships. That is understanding. All else is just memory or mental, memorized spirituality. We could call that very famous word these days, embodiment of this understanding of what or who we are. Embodiment, but not in the sense to embody something that we don't have, but to embody the light, the purity of us as awareness, to let that light shine onto all of our human experience and free ourselves from that which is not in harmony, in line with this understanding. So it's more this freeing of ignorance, of separation on all levels, that is embodiment. It's the embodiment of that which is transparent, which is pure, which is awareness. And not by adding more ideas, more visions, more imaginations, how to be happy. It's already there. It's an emptying of confusion, which we, if we understand it in that way, can call embodiment of our spirit, of our self, of our happiness into all of our life, our body and our mind.